Okay. Because we're going to be talking about money, and from the Zoom invitation, you're going to see that we're heading towards financial freedom. And it's necessary for me to display this disclaimer because I'm not here to give any financial advice or for any investment recommendations of any kind. We are here um, for education, for information, and for you to be able to make an informed decision for your own lives. Our topic this evening is design your own financial future. And this is a very profound idea because for the vast majority of us on the planet, uh, we are not in a position and we would rarely ever find ourselves in a position where we can literally design our own financial future. And so when we just think of that title, when we think of this idea of being able to design our own financial future, that's talking about building something that will be sustainable, that will be long lasting, and something that we can use to help us to secure our financial lives down the road. And we're going to do that by owning the value that creates that future. And so, as you review um, all the information that we're going to go through, and I would like to encourage you that you can get the recording and go over it because the information is worth listening to over for it to really sink in. Because what we're going to be talking about, much of it is going to be unfamiliar to most people, and but I promise you, the information is the value of it literally is going to impact and change your lives on multiple levels. Designing your own financial future, we need to come to a place of understanding if this is indeed possible, how is it possible? Why is it that most of us will never ever get to a point where we can literally design it? So we want to be reminded of why this is out of reach for most of us so we can appreciate what I'm going to share with us, the value that it really has. So I'm going to begin by talking about three economic realities that shape our lives. The first one, all of us are familiar with because we all living it. We call it decentralized economy. And this is an economic reality that is where our income is based on our effort. And in this reality, the vast majority of people, 95% of us, will not find a place that where we can literally have the kind of control over our finances that would afford us to be able to design the kind of financial future that we truly desire, that we deserve, and that we like to have for ourselves and our families. In this economy, we just trade value for labor and for money. This is where we just work for money, and financial freedom remains out of reach. 70% of of society that lives within this economic reality, we live on borrowed money. We live with a lot of debt. We live a routine existence, and there is very little progress. We get busy, and we think that the way to get ahead is that we have to work harder, we have to have more jobs, we have to put more time and effort in. But in this economy, our income is only temporary. We cannot build financial future, financial freedom with an income that's temporary. I say it's temporary because if we stop our effort, our income stops. Our income is completely reliant on our effort. And there's a lot that could be said about this, but I think we all understand the reality here. In this economy, there's very little ownership of the assets, the infrastructure that we work within, the systems that we work within. There's very little ownership of it. Therefore, there's little equity that we can build anything for the future. And so within this environment, there is a select few that experiences this economy quite differently. They're not the ones that are just trying to make a living or just surviving and depending on the system like most people within this economy does. This select few, they experience a different economic reality. We call that the sovereign economy because in this economy, revenue and income is based on ownership, and ownership makes all the difference. And these are the ones that own the assets, they own the systems that run that's part of the infrastructure. They own the infrastructure that runs the systems that we work within. And because of ownership, revenue, income, it comes out of owning the assets, owning the systems, owning the infrastructure. And ownership is what will always bring us to a place of being positioned where we can make decisions about our future that we could not make in decentralized economy. See, in decentralized economy, whoever owns what's where your income is coming from, they determine what your financial future will be. In the sovereign economy, when you own assets that generate value and generate income, when your revenue is no longer based on your effort, if you own where your income is coming from, now you can make decisions about your future. In decentralized economy, as long as we're locked in to that economy, it doesn't matter how hard you work, it doesn't matter the opportunities that you get. There are very few, the exceptional few that might break out of that economy and come over to the sovereign economy. But unless we get to the point where we actually own what produces our income, I want to say that again. Unless we own what is producing our income, we will never get to a point of true financial freedom and being able to design our financial future the way we would like it to be and the way how it ought to be. And so, in this sovereign economy, you're no longer working for money, money is working for you. And ownership has always been and is the doorway to building economic freedom, building wealth. And so we want to be able to move from the centralized economy over to the sovereign economy, but it's difficult for the average person to be able to do that. Now, when you take these two and you add them together, out of that emerges a third economy, which we're all unfamiliar with. And this is where I want to focus this evening, because it's only by getting an ecosystem economy would we have the wherewithal to be able to design our financial future. An ecosystem, by nature, is a system where all aspects of that system function together in unified harmony. They function as one integrated system. In the ecosystem economy, it's the best of the principles of the other economies, where participation plus ownership brings equality. You see, in the first two economies, there's a big gap of inequality that's there. In the ecosystem economy, that becomes dissolved. Our participation is based on ownership of assets, of systems, of infrastructure. In this one, the value is not is not being extracted and going to the top. In decentralized and sovereign economies, when value is inputted by our efforts and our skills, etc., the value flows to those who own the assets, and we work within their systems. In the ecosystem economy, this doesn't exist. In the ecosystem, because it's all ownership based, everyone inside of this ecosystem economy, they participate based on ownership, and so the value circulates to everyone. But ownership is accessible to everyone. In this economy, it is open and it is inclusive. There is no unbanked people in this one. In this economy, money is not just only working for us, money flows to us. We are not familiar with this economy. This one sounds almost far fetched. In this economy works because it's decentralized, meaning that there are no central authorities, as in decentralized economy, that's controlling everything and determining what will happen as far as our income goes. In this one, we get to own the source of our income, so we get to decide what will happen with it. I want to focus on this because as long as we can participate in an ecosystem economy, everyone will succeed financially. I am going to show us how this is possible, why this is possible, and how it can work each and every one of us on this call. Now, it's an unusual thought for us to even think that such a reality exists, that every single person that enters an ecosystem economy 100%, everyone will succeed financially. There is no one inside of an ecosystem economy that does not succeed financially. Why? Because it's entirely based on ownership. It's entirely based on connectivity, where the value that each participant brings to the economy circulates throughout the entire economy. Imagine for a minute that your growth and your progress is based on the growth and progress of everyone within the economy. And the growth and progress of everyone in the economy is based on your own. That is how interconnected it is. And because it is based on the first principle of wealth and of growing wealth, which is ownership, everyone succeed. This is where shared prosperity exists. And so this is the economy that we all want to participate in. And this is where we're going to be headed. Now, why does this work? Just very quickly, I want to just share the principles of how this is possible, what makes it work, and why it works. So that in traditional systems where the value is concentrated to a select few, in unified systems, the value is circulated so everyone shares in the prosperity. What makes this possible are five immutable laws, which are just like the law of gravity. If you throw an object in the air, only one thing will happen. It will fall to the ground. When these five laws, which are all interconnected, when they align in any system, only one thing happens. Not just wealth, but sustainable wealth is going to be developed. In an ecosystem economy, their money must always first follow value creation. Once value is created, be it from our skills, talents, and etc., that value needs to be owned, or there must be ownership of assets or systems that create value or generate value. And so we all bring our value to life, to society, to the marketplace, but we need to come to a point where we have the ownership to be able to make the choice. If we don't have the sovereignty to choose what happens to the value that we are bringing, then we have no control over our financial future. That's why ownership is always the doorway. But once we get to own that value and we get to choose how it's to grow and what's to happen with it, then it naturally flows to the third law of leverage, which is how we can increase it and scale it and make it bigger and make it more without increasing our effort. It's called leverage, and we can learn about that. But once it begins to increase and expand through leverage, using systems and using resources that's available, it naturally flows into the fourth law of sustainable wealth, which is compound growth. And that is where the increase begins to accelerate in such a way that it endures over time through compounding. And the last law of stewardship is what really brings it full circle to where we have a sustainable system, because the law of stewardship says that all that has been increased and developed circulates back to the very participants where it started. And so you flow right back to the beginning, and that increased value begins a cycle again. And so there's a self-sustaining loop of continuous flow. And if anything is going to be built and it's going to last. It must have a consistent flow. That that consistency is what brings the growth. And so sustainable wealth is really the flow of value secured by ownership, expanded through leverage, and it's accelerated through compounding, but it's preserved through stewardship. And so we want to be able to own the value that is going to shape our financial future. And that happens within this ecosystem economy. Owning the value of our financial future becomes possible because of a company that I have partnered with, and we have partners here on the call who have also partnered with it. And we all can attest to one thing. Why? Because we're all part of an ecosystem economy and we all experience the same value. The company is called Metaterra, and they're shaping the future of digital finance. The, the global economy of the future is completely digital. It's all digital. We are at an inflection point in the evolution of our world, especially the world of finance, where we are going beyond using cards, which is all digital transactions, into a new era of using digital money, other digital forms of transactions. And for those of you who are aware of it, you know that it's happening right across the globe. For those who may not be aware of it, you need to pay attention because you do not want to get left behind in this transition that is taking place. Metaterra is a company that is at the forefront of shaping this future, and they're bringing to the world something that the world has never had before, and we get to participate in that at the very beginning of it. What they're bringing to the world, this ecosystem, it's called the Miracle Ecosystem. They bring it to the world through their agency called Bellator. Bellator is one of the companies under Metaterra that is the gateway to being able to access the Miracle Ecosystem. And the Miracle Ecosystem is a connected infrastructure that bridges the worlds of traditional finance as we know it and decentral finance, which is the financial, um, how the future economies are going to be working. And so I want to just break this down so that we can understand what we're talking about and get a handle on it. The evolution of the future of digital finance is reshaping and redefining how the entire world of money is going to work. It's a new reality that is shaping the next chapter of humanity. I want us to really get the perspective on it, which is in the same way the internet has changed and redefined how the entire world functions, the same thing is about to has begun to happen, and it's happening because of five different aspects that we're going to be talking about. There's governance, regulated oversight has brought into legislation and into law new laws that say that cryptocurrencies and digital currencies are now the currencies of the future. That happened last year here in the United States and in countries around the world. They are already, it's not even a year yet, and all the banks already have the authority to be able to custody digital assets and cryptocurrencies. There's already one bank that I've connected with that's actually offering services where they can custody digital assets and cryptocurrencies. So it's moving faster than people think will happen. And so what's bringing this about is the technology called blockchain technology. Many are familiar with that term. Blockchain is the next advent of the internet. It's the new layer of the internet that's bring a new level of functionality that upgrades the internet to what they're calling Web3. And just like the world cannot function without internet today, the world will not be able to function without blockchain technology. Blockchain technology, as we all are aware, began with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies years ago, but it has evolved to a place where it's now replacing how commerce across the globe is going to function. But blockchain is a decentralized environment, and that's very significant for us to be aware of because that changes the playing field altogether with how money is going to work. Out of that has come DeFi, or what is called decentralized finance, which is where cryptocurrencies and digital currencies are going to be functioning. This is the future of finance and where things are going to be. The other aspect that gives us access to real world assets where you and I can participate in the financial systems of the world in ways that was unavailable previously that we now have access to, and we'll understand that as we move along. All this has brought about a new reality for communities where people are now going to be empowered in ways that we did not have available to us before. And what I mean by that is that these changes is redefining things to where the evolution represents the greatest transfer of wealth in history to the average person. You and I, and the average person across the world today, we're now positioned to have access and receive the greatest transfer of wealth in human history. When I say the transfer of wealth, I'm not talking about wealth coming from the elites at the top that receive all the value, it coming down, or that they're sharing it with the world. That's not how it's happening. But it's the greatest transfer of wealth because what all the wealthy has had access to, the well that they dip into that creates their wealth, the wealthy. Whereas imagine that there's a well that all the wealthy tap into. And from this well, there are little streams of income that come from that, that we, the 95%, share at the bottom, we share from what trickles out of this well. And so we survive on that. Well, what has happened, the transfer of wealth, is that we now have access to the well. We now have access to the same resources. It's now available to all of us. And because it is, this is where the transfer of wealth is happening. This is a reality of our world that we have evolved to, and many people are sleepwalking into it and they're not recognizing it. It means that anyone can now own valuable assets without having large capital to do so. Think about that. This is worth serious thought. We now have open access to owning infrastructure that runs systems that we never had available before. This is bigger than our minds can wrap around at first. We can receive passive income daily in perpetuity because of ownership of assets, of systems, of infrastructure. We now have access to all the income and revenue that such systems produce, and it will continue to produce it for life. That means income without effort. Because of technology, we can call it automated income. This is the future that we are in. But more than that, we get to decide how much that income could be. This is sovereignty over our financial freedom, our finances. Imagine not only can we dip into the same well without having large capital to be able to do so, because it's openly access, we have open access to it now. And we need to understand that. So not only do we get to decide how much we want that income to be, we get to determine how sustainable we want it to be. I want us to think about that for a minute. Imagine that you had this level of autonomy over your income. Never in the history of the world has it been available to the average person to have this level of control. I want to say it again. Unless we can control where income comes from, we will not know financial freedom and design the financial future we want. As long as our income comes from a source that someone else owns, you'll never see it. You have to get to this. And this is what the world is now presenting to you and I. This is what's embedded inside an economy. And so, my question to you that I want you to really think about is, with this sovereignty over your finances, how differently would you visualize your future? Because if you're talking about building and designing our own financial future, we understand that we have to have the capacity where we make the decisions of what that will be like. If we don't have that sovereignty, we can't do that. But now it's open for us to be able to do that. So the obvious questions would be is that if Metaterra is bringing this to the world through Bellator, how confident could we be that this is something that is so stable, so sustainable, so structured, so visionary that we can actually have the confidence to rely and depend on what they're actually bringing to the world, that we can say we could build a future on this. We have to have the confidence that it has that capacity to be here for the long haul. And so let's take a brief look at that. Metaterra is built on a very solid foundation. Metaterra Holdings Inc. is built on a foundation of corporate accountability, which is elevated way beyond the unregulated crypto projects that people have known in the past. We are a publicly traded NASDAQ listed company, just only awaiting our final stamp and our ticker. And so we are compliant, we're transparent with all the regulatory authorities. That speaks volumes beyond what has existed in this digital industry before. And so, as I'm sure many would know, as a publicly traded company, your operations and your finances, it's an open book to the public. And so the role of Metaterra is corporate governance and strategic oversight of all the ecosystem companies and the global growth of those companies. We have a global footprint with logistic office in 13 countries, and we actually have physical crypto stores in 3 major cities in Europe where you can walk into that store. You can use your phone and you can transfer crypto um, right over the counter and receive cash for it, or you can take cash into the store, give them over the counter, and receive crypto right onto your digital wallet. And so, and gradually over time, those stores are going to expand. So right away, just the fact that we are a publicly traded entity and the regulatory scrutiny that a company has to go through to even achieve that says that we are a trustworthy company, and what we are standing on is regulatory and transparent compliance. The executives that run this company, that lead this company and take it forward, they too have to be under regulatory scrutiny as a publicly traded company. And so, who we have is a world renowned executive leadership that's taken us into the future. This is after 8 years of building an infrastructure, which began with Hakan Turhan, who is the visionary, the CEO and founder of Metaterra. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going into a lot of their information. You can look up these individuals online and you can see their backgrounds and you can see how stellar they are. Some of these people are almost are icons and institutions in and of themselves with what they have achieved over the years. Um, he is joined by Micah Thierd, who partnered with Hakan several years ago to build what we have today. And Micah Thierd, his expertise is in connections and global expansion, and he's the CEO of Bellator Life. With what they have built over the years, which leading up to where we are, this whole future of digital finance attract the attention of Wall Street, particularly this gentleman, Mr. Douglas Anderson, who is the CEO of Wall Street Capital Partners, company that's been around for almost 30 years, who has brought some of the largest companies in the world to where they are today in terms of being publicly traded companies. And he now sits as the chairman and a partner with our company because of what he recognized our company is bringing to the world, which you'll see is the first of its kind. He brought with him another financial icon, Mr. Stephen Norris, who was one of the co-founders of the Carlyle Group, one of the largest asset management companies in the world. He also is the founder of and the CEO of Cedar Capital. These gentlemen have brought some of the largest companies that we know of today, that we would recognize them by name. And if you look them up, you'll see the influence that they've had bringing these multi-billion dollar companies in the world to where they are today. They have decades in the area of finance and capital markets. And then there is Mr. Russ Gerson of the Gerson Group. He was formerly the vice chairman of Citigroup, a large banking institution here in the United States. These five gentlemen are veterans in their field when it comes to global finance, the financial markets, and understanding that entire arena through and through. They're supported by a world-class advisory board of like Stephen Norris. He is perhaps one of the foremost economists in the United States. Many people may know his face. He's often on national TV. He was appointed in the first Trump administration to chair the Federal Reserve. These are the people of people of this caliber are the people who sit and run our companies. John Bear, who was at the beginning of the development of cellular technology for cell phones. He's the founder of Widevine that built the technology that Google is now resting on. He's the architect of streaming technology and set the global standards that Netflix and other streaming platforms are using. Monica Profit, sustainable finance. She wrote the book Blockchain 101. And Fernando Vildasola, a cross-border expert. He has a $60 billion publicly traded company. And Paul Randall is the world's leading authority when it comes to credit scores and credit bureaus. Governments consult with his company in order to set up credit systems for governments around the world. And so I just go through this so that you can say that what we have, we can build a future on, because this is not some ambitious individuals trying to make a go at something. These are people that have been in the industry for decades, and we're sitting on a very strong and a very solid foundation. They have built what we call the architecture of value, and with Metaterra at the parent company, Bellator Life, as the gateway into what Miracle Technologies has built over the last 8 years. What you're looking at is a revenue sharing economic environment where participation, ownership, and enterprise come together, creating value that circulates continuously, growing into financial security. There is no model like this that exists in the world right now. This is a global, decentralized economic infrastructure that includes banking and commerce, the first of its kind in the world. And so the Miracle ecosystem is a group of interconnected companies across connected platforms that combine blockchain, payments, digital assets, AI, and financial tools into a unified system. Each one of these represent a different company, but they're all unified into one system. And what harnesses the very flow of value between all of them is what we call a core banking switch. We are the only crypto blockchain infrastructure in the world that has a core banking switch. That's an important distinction, because the only other entities that carry a core banking switch are tier one financial institutions like central banks or major banks like JP Morgan that has large global reach. This is what ensures that the flow of value between all the sectors of our economy maintains its harmony and its sync. Now, I want you to imagine for a minute, because this entire infrastructure, it's a revenue sharing environment. And that revenue sharing is based on participation and ownership. So imagine for a minute that of receiving income from all the financial services provided throughout this entire ecosystem. Why? Because you own assets, you own systems, and you own infrastructure within this entire economy. And so when the value that flows through this economy from the services provided globally by this institution, imagine that you're receiving income from every sector. That in itself is very hard to wrap our minds around when you're talking about something on a global scale. We're not going to go in to all of this because we'll be here for a long time, but just to give us a sense of it, you function within this realm and in the entire global digital arena of finance through a digital wallet. Ours is called the Miracle Wallet. It's a multi chain wallet that allows us to be able to function throughout this economy and throughout the digital economy of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, the future of payment is going to be through your cell phone. It's going to be just through digital wallets on your phone and less as time go by using cards. But they will always still be around for some time to come. Now we have a payment system, a global payment system, which I'm going to talk a little bit about shortly. And this, I want you to imagine that right now, Visa or MasterCard, they're accepted all over the world. There's over $300 trillion in transactions that's done with cards around the world. And every time a transaction is made, a fee is charged. But Visa or MasterCard, being a central authority, all the fees go to one place. I want you to imagine that there is such a global payment system, just like that. But it's done through digital currencies. And every transaction that's done by yourself, your family, or anyone in the world, you actually share in the fees done through that system. Miracle Neo is a fully functioning online banking system where your traditional bank is linked with your digital account, and you can move digital currencies back into fiat, fiat currencies into digital. Imagine that you have a system that's bridging both worlds together, where you can function in the digital economy as seamlessly as if you were in the traditional world. There's something called Score ID, which is about how you build your credit score in the digital world in a very unique way. And the purpose of this, or the um, end goal of it, is financial inclusion of the unbanked. Billions of people that don't have access to financial services, because of this, they now can have access to that. That's a big deal. You have collateralized loans. We have trading platforms. This is done by millions of people around the world. And a big, big industry is the gaming industry. We have a gaming platform called Phoenix Arena. It has multiple types of competitive games, etc. But I want you just to imagine that everything that's happening within this economy on a global scale, that you are actually receiving income every time someone places a trade, every time somebody goes onto the gaming platform, every time someone spends using their digital wallet or their card, every time somebody does a transaction between digital and traditional finance, every time anything moves within the system, you actually earn from it. Now, that all by itself is mind blowing. I am going to just touch on these four aspects: Score ID, Miracle Chain, Miracle Pay, and Equity Token, because these four represent four bridges that anchor our ecosystem into the real world in such a way that gives us the confidence that this company and this system is here for the long haul. And so I'm just going to touch on them very briefly. The first one is Score ID. And everyone that lives in a modern economy, we are being scored every time. Here in the United States, credit score is the major thing. If you don't have a major credit score, a good credit score, nobody wants to do business with you. You're not going to be able to get by very well when you don't have a good credit score. But what Miracle and Bellator is bringing to the world is the first of its kind Web3 scoring system that's bridging traditional web scoring with on-chain and digital Web3 intelligence to create a new universal standard that has never existed before. This is the first bridge that's bridging the traditional world of how one builds scoring identity with the digital world, creating a global credit score. And this is one of the main things that has attracted Wall Street and major companies to what we're doing because this has not existed before. Take a listen.
To the traditional banking world, you are a blind spot. They look at you and they see no history, no profile, no value. But they can't see the digital empire you've built on the blockchain. Your true financial power remains invisible to them. Score ID builds the bridge, seamlessly blending your verified digital assets with traditional data, translating your complex financial life into one universal standard, the Miracle Score. Turn your digital wealth into instant action. Secure that luxury rental in seconds. Expand your purchasing power anywhere, all backed by mathematical transparency and a strict privacy-first architecture. Your data stays yours. Score ID, the trust standard of hybrid finance. Score ID.
Now, what I want you to take away from this is not to try to understand how a system like this would work, but just to emphasize that traditional scoring platforms like Experian and TransUnion and those commonly known credit bureaus, the data that they accumulate from your activity and you could be trusted with credit and because of your activities in the traditional world, we are partnered with companies like that and migrated that or integrated that into the traditional world of digital finance. There are many people that have millions in the digital world that may not exist in the traditional world, but there was a time now where you could not take, there was no credit scoring data of your digital activities and your digital wealth that you can take it into the traditional world of finance and be accepted. Now that's about to change with Score ID. So what I want us to take away from is that this is the first of the bridges that's bridging real world data that's out there with companies that we have partnered with this data. This is our first anchor into the traditional world of finance. The next thing is our Miracle Chain. Our Miracle Chain is our blockchain platform that connects the entire ecosystem and makes sure that our banking switch is functioning on a global scale with the flow of value through all of our systems. Now, the point that I want you to take on this slide is blockchain infrastructure is open to community ownership. Why? Because it's a decentralized environment. How this is anchoring us into the world is that the world today tens of thousands of companies around the world, you can Google it, you can check it and see, are migrating their businesses on chain. Why? Because when you move on chain, you're going to be saving loads of money, your business scales faster, and it gets global for a fraction of the cost of just using regular internet. And so our blockchain, apart from running our entire ecosystem, it also is enterprise ready to onboard businesses around the world. This short video will give you a sense of that.
Welcome to the future of business. Miracle Chain, where blockchain meets automation and AI transforms how companies grow. Imagine onboarding customers with a tap, paying teams worldwide in seconds, and launching token ecosystems without writing a single line of code. With Iterato, your sales force becomes unstoppable. AI handles the follow-up, while gamification drives viral growth. Need to launch your own token? Miracle Launchpad and DEX give you everything: pre-sales, vesting, swaps, and full control. The Miracle Wallet simplifies finance. No seed phrases, just seamless access to crypto. Commissions and payments, secure, compliant, and easy to white label. And at the core, Miracle Chain. A private layer 2, built for scale, compliance, and automated global payouts. Whether you're selling online or in-store, Miracle Pay bridges fiat and crypto so you can do business anytime, anywhere. Miracle Chain. Powering the digital economy, one smart system at a time.
So it'll become more and more known as we evolve further into the future of digital finance, how businesses are coming on board. And a very common thing that will begin to emerge, for example, there are companies, large institutional giants like Walmart, they're right now exploring their own cryptocurrency. Amazon is exploring their own cryptocurrency. People may say, well, why would companies do that? Because for the same reason that JP Morgan launched their own cryptocurrency last year, and that's because once they do that, it's going to save them billions of dollars in transaction fees having their own. Now, it is companies like ours that will now create that cryptocurrency. They need a chain and they need an infrastructure, banking infrastructure for that to run on. And these are the things that part of what our Miracle Chain will provide for businesses around the world. Next is the Miracle Pay system. This is a global payment system where our software called Miracle Pay is integrated across terminals right around the world. And you'll see how that is in a minute. This is another bridge where the digital world is interfaced with traditional finance, another anchor that gives our company a solid footing that gives us long-term sustainability into the future. Just take a listen to this short video of how it works.
You've probably heard the saying, if only I were early. Early to Bitcoin, early to Amazon, early to Tesla. Well, here it is again. But this time, it's not about hype. It's about owning the rails of a new financial system. Introducing CPU nodes, digital assets that earn daily from real crypto transactions happening worldwide. Every time someone pays with crypto, in-store or online, a small fee powers the network. And if you own a node, you get paid. These nodes are already paying every single day in a digital currency undervalued today, but set to explode in the months ahead. We've secured contracts with 4 global terminal providers, giving us access to over 100 million active merchants. And we're also integrated with major online retailers, processing billions each month. When even a small percentage of that volume transacts in crypto, node rewards skyrocket. The system is active. Payouts have begun. We're funding our aggressive expansion, not with Wall Street, but with everyday people like you. Together, we're decentralizing wealth by owning the new infrastructure of money, Timing is everything. Own a node now and earn every day for life.
So imagine that we're now living in a world that's evolving into a global economy where cryptocurrencies are now legal tender and is now being integrated into the mainstream. There are people that hold trillions of dollars in cryptocurrencies around the world, but did not have or they do not have the access to be able to transact freely as you would a regular debit or credit card. What Miracle Pay brings to the world, and this is one of the values it's bringing to the world, is that you can now interact seamlessly. It supports over 200 types of cryptos that you can have on your digital wallet. You just tap your phone and it converts the cryptocurrency into the fiat currency of the country that you're in. And so this is an amazing technology that they bought. It was launched in February. And so there's this global rollout that is taking place across 3 continents currently. And you can be hearing more and more about that. There's a big PR release that's going to be coming regarding that very shortly. Now, when they talk about the 4 global payment providers, these are them, and I'm just bringing it up so you can take note, because when you go to your supermarket, you go to your gas station or restaurant, when you tap or swipe your card, it's one of these names that you're going to come across 85% of the time. Why? Because they account for 85% of the global terminals right now around the world. Ingenico, Pax, Verifone, and NCR, over 160 million active merchants in 150 countries. Our Miracle Pay software is now integrated into their systems. And so, in a very similar way, like how Apple Pay would work, you just tap your phone with Apple Pay, will just from your digital wallet, you can just tap your phone, or you can use a crypto-enabled debit card, which you can get through the company as well, where you can just use either one to do transactions, and the crypto is converted into the fiat currency. The difference is talked about if you own a node, you'll get paid. The difference is that when you do transactions with Visa and MasterCard and the other payment the other payment systems that we know, they have nodes that validate their transactions, but the difference is it goes to a central authority. The difference here is that all who own nodes, and you'll get to see in a minute what that node is, that when all those who own nodes, we share in all of the transactions that's taking place on a global scale. Now, the global infrastructure blockchain network is built on these CPU nodes. The CPU nodes, they are just software licenses, and they validate, they record, and they secure every transaction across the network. So regardless of what sector of our ecosystem transactions are taking place, every transaction must be validated, and every transaction carries a fee with it. Now, this particular node, called the CPU node, has validated transactions. And because blockchain is a decentralized environment, a community, a global community, owns the infrastructure. And so this is where ownership can begin with you and I. I have a short here that I want to share with you. This gentleman, his name is Billy Warmack. He's not part of our ecosystem, but he says something that is exactly pertaining to how it works with how it's going to work with our system. And so just take a listen, and then I'm going to explain to you how that pertains to you and I.
Did make millions of dollars in crypto, but I don't trade crypto and I don't buy crypto. I make it.
Okay, just a quick note. He don't trade crypto, he don't buy crypto, he makes it. Now, when we talk about the world of crypto, people think about trading, buying, selling, the volatility, this is not the side that we're talking about. We do have our trading platforms in our economy, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about what nodes do.
So I started making Bitcoin at $220. That in itself is crazy. So we started mining Bitcoin. We were making a lot of money. We were like, man, if Bitcoin ever gets to $10,000, we're going to be rich. This guy that was mentoring me, he was worth $100 million. I became one of his top guys. And at that time, I didn't know anybody worth that kind of money. It just sounds preposterous to the average person. For the next 7 years, I learned software instead of hardware mining. So when you mine Bitcoin, you have a physical piece of machine. You plug it into the network. It confirms transactions. You make Bitcoin. On the platform that we launched, which was a company called Gala Games, we worked with Snoop, the death row chain that Snoop gave me, kind of crazy. And instead of hardware, we had software. So these software nodes will confirm transactions on the blockchain. Every time you buy something on that blockchain, sell something, move some money back and forth, there's a fee. That fee goes up in the cloud and it's split evenly between the node owners. So that very first blockchain that we launched, I'm going to put 15,000 in. And for 2.5 years, those nodes just confirmed transactions. I had about 17 million tokens in my wallet. I watched it go from less than a penny to 5 cents, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 84 cents in a matter of like 5 months. So I went from $11,000 in software nodes to having over 11.4 million liquid currency.
So you would have caught it that the nodes that he had owned, they were producing tokens which he accumulated 17 million tokens over 2.5 year period. And when the value went up, what it translated into. Well, for every blockchain platform carries a native token. Our primary utility token on our blockchain is called Phoenix token. And I want to highlight this because this is a utility token that's positioned to become one of the most utility dense tokens ever created in the crypto world. Why? Because this token is connected to every transaction that takes place on our chain and every bridge that links us into the traditional world of finance, which is our blockchain, our Miracle Pay, our Score ID. There's no cryptocurrency that exists today that has the density of utility of this token. And when you understand what gives cryptocurrencies their value, which is basically demand, this is such a high demand utility that this is what it is that we are creating. So one of the first things that you get to have ownership of is a node. These nodes are the foundation that the whole blockchain infrastructure runs on. These nodes are what's processing everything that's taking place. And the nodes are owned by millions of people all over the world. Now, when you own this for life. There are two aspects I want to just share with you in terms of what it can mean in terms of potential. I want to talk about the early adoption advantage, which is Billy mentioned in that short, and I want to talk about daily earnings with it. Now, early adoption meaning that your node, it's better than what Billy is even talking about. Why? Because our node is not just producing the currency, our node is tied to a global payment system. This particular node is tied to millions of merchants around the world, and every time crypto is used for payment, we're going to receive part of that payment, fraction of that. So right now, it's producing 80 tokens a day. And I just want to do a quick calculations. 80 tokens a day multiplied by 365 equals 29,200 tokens in a year. What we do is that we are focused on building something that will give us sustainable wealth for the future. And so we have a building phase, which we call 24 to 36 months, very short time of accumulating the tokens that your node is producing. That's 29,200. I mean, even if the value of the token, which at this point is just a fraction of a penny now, its value when it was launched late last year, by January, its value had increased 700%. In the next year, with the kind of density of utility that it has, what it may reach to. Now, even if it reached to 50 cents, with creating 29,200 in a year, even at 50 cents, that is almost $15,000 that you would have just by accumulating the token. That is phase one. That is the adoption phase. And why I say early adoption phase is because as time go by and the token continues to rise in value, then of course it decreases that potential to scale the type of income you can produce in while the token is still at such a low price. The second part is passive income. This node is tied to the global payment system, of which there are over 100 million merchants. And I'm going to take a conservative 5% of those 100 million merchants, which would be 5 million merchants globally. And this is only dealing with on-store, not online, because we have partnerships with Shopify, which has over 800 million online clients. But let's just talk about in-store with merchants. And we're going to take an average that they're going to do $300 daily in crypto transactions, which really accounts for less than 1% of their daily transactions. The merchants that we're integrated with, it's less than 1% of what they do currently. So that's $1.5 billion in transactions globally. Miracle Pay has a transaction fee of 2%. 2% of that 1.5 billion is 30 million a day from those fees. Nodes, we earn between 10 to 30% of that transaction fee. I'm going to use the lowest, which is 10% of that 30 million, which is 3 million a day. And so we are just staying conservative. 20% of this goes towards the network community. I'm just going to touch on that in a second, because this is also another way how value circulates to ensure that everyone can actually participate in financial growth. Then with this particular node, there are only 210,000 of these nodes that will ever exist. I cannot tell you how many of them are still available. They went on to the market to be available from the beginning of 2025. We're into 2026 now. But the 2.4 million divided between the 210,000 nodes works out to be $11.43 a day. Now, that might not sound like a lot first, because that's only an extra $300 a month, extra $4,000 passively a year. But remember that this node is producing the token every day, and it's going to do that for life. You're going to receive payment from every transaction. As the system becomes more and more globally adopted, you're going to receive that for life. It never stops happening. For the very entire life of this company, this is what these earnings. What if after your building phase, this is now 10% or 15%, and so now you're looking at $1,000 or $15,000 extra a year, all passive automated income? What if it is that you own several nodes like Billy did and not just one node? What could that income be? Can you just think for a minute that you have this income that's happening every day, 7 days a week, 365 in perpetuity? It never stops. What would you pay to own an asset that creates this type of income? Every Bellator partner that's on this call right now can easily attest to the fact, as I could, that every single day we wake up and we go and we check into our wallet, there's hundreds or thousands of tokens that are there, all depending on what nodes or how many nodes we own. But every day we receive our payment for this. How much would you pay for own an asset like this? And this is just one of the assets. The cost of this is $1,200, and it's a one-time fee that pays you for the rest of your life. This type of system, this type of capacity, this type of potential we have not known before. And so I'm just going to, now the last one is EquiToken, which deals with tokenizing real world assets. And this is all tangible assets from property to gold to stocks to bonds. The entire global financial markets are now all being tokenized. And the experts say that in the next 3 to 5 years, all assets within the financial arena will be tokenized. And this simply means tokenization is fractional ownership. It means if I had a building that I wanted to sell and it was worth $1 million, I can create 1 million digital tokens, and whoever buy up these tokens, you may have 1,000 people, 2,000, 5,000, you may have 1 million people that buy a token each, but each token represents $1, let's just say. Once those tokens are bought, and the thing is about how tokenization works is that anybody, anywhere in the world can purchase these tokens. So my building is sold, I get my million, and it can be divided among a large amount of people that bought various tokens. If you bought, let's say, 500 of those tokens, now that for those 500 tokens represent a portion or a fraction of the ownership of that property, which you can use to liquidate, you can use as collateral in lending institutions, but it is real world assets that have real world value. So you might not have been able to buy a building or buy part of a building, but maybe you could buy 100 tokens with $100. You now own a fraction of that asset. That's how tokenization works, and that's why ownership of assets is now available to anyone, anywhere in the world, and wherever you live, you can own property and assets anywhere in the world today. There's another node we have called the Project X node. It produces over 200 of the Phoenix token a day, and it also pays annual dividends of 6% on all the tokenized projects that come through our system, our EquiToken platform. Currently, Metaterra is tokenizing the largest real-world assets in the world today, and there's companies that are beginning to line up to be able to tokenize their projects with us. And this is, I'm just going to just skip past this video and go straight to the other node assets that we have. These are what's available now. There's the farm node, which is $99, the Miracle Pay. The Project X node is usually $1,600. It's at $1,300 at a special offer until tomorrow. And there's the Guardian node. You can get information on these. Those of you who are guests, you can speak to your host partner that would have shared the information with you, and they can give you more information on that. We also have pre-IPO packages, which is a combination which represents multiple sources of income for those who are entrepreneurial minded. These packages, you can look and see the amount of nodes you're getting with them, the amount of Phoenix token that you can actually produce in a month with this starter package. I mean, just imagine that the Phoenix token was worth even 50 cents, how much that would be in a month that you could actually be earning. And so these are 3,000, 5,500, and 9,000. If you look at the actual cost of them, you will see how significant the saving is. These savings, they go away by midnight tomorrow. These are all gone as well. And then the nodes will revert back to their normal prices, and then shortly thereafter, all our prices are going to be increased as we receive our ticker symbol for the NASDAQ. All these assets are going to increase in value. And so just to conclude, as I mentioned earlier when I was going through the numbers, 20% of the transaction fee goes into our community network. You are invited to be on the call to get this information so that you can make a decision to position yourself in an ownership model where you can take charge and have sovereignty over your financial future. It is a network marketing structure, but it's not a network marketing traditional model. We call it Aladdin, which is AI leveraged asset-driven digital income network. The income is driven by assets and ownership, but there is a referral program that we have within our system for those who help to expand the economy, who help to increase the participation. But unlike traditional networking, this does not require us to have monthly sales or constant recruiting in order to increase our earnings. No monthly auto ships, annual renewal. It doesn't have those type of frictions in it. It offers us 5 additional streams of digital income. And where is the revenue coming from? 20% comes from the node earnings. So the global earnings of the nodes globally, 20% of that and 50% of service fees go into the community in order to pay these commissions to those of us who are helping build and expand the network. It's available to everyone to register with Bellator. It's free. There's no cost to come on board. You can learn and earn. So you can learn about our ecosystem, learn the values of it, understand how it works. And if you promote it, having understood it, and you have 4 new Bellator partners become part of the ecosystem, you can now earn your asset and become an active participant. So you could actually earn your way in and begin to scale from there. And so, ladies and gentlemen, what I just introduced to you was a unique concept. It's a company that's in the forefront of what is going to be represented globally in terms of digital finance. We are bridging that world of the digital finance era with traditional finances. We're not replacing it. We're bridging them together. That's anchoring us in such a way with some of the biggest projects on the planet that gives our company sustainability. There's never been anything like this before, where you and I can now move from a centralized economy into an economy where we can now gain that ownership, where we can now make the decisions financially of how we're going to build our financial future. And all the income that comes in, it's passive, meaning it's not based on effort. For those of us, like myself and others who might have invited you to the call, who we choose to participate in expanding the economy. Why? 70% of the global economy is living paycheck to paycheck. People need this. People need what we're bringing to the world. And so you're here to give you the opportunity for you to make a decision of how you can actually position yourself to design your own financial future by joining the revolution where ownership, technology, and people come together for shared prosperity. It was my pleasure to be able to share this information with you. I trust that you would have gotten enough from what I presented, that you can now really turn it over, maybe get a copy of the presentation, listen to it over again, so you can connect some dots, speak with your partner who shared the link here with you, and they can tell you what next and how you can get started and be on your way entering this gateway of ownership. So with that, I am going to just leave you with our Metaterra anthem as we exit this evening. And as I say, thank you for giving your time and your attention for what we did this evening. God bless you and have a good evening.
Building a world on the chain, turning the future from cold to flame. Trust in the block, trust in the plan. Metaterra, here we stand. Metaterra, light the way. New tomorrow starts today. From the dust we rise again. Metaterra, we believe we win. terror. We believe